Okay, so far we discussed this. Now, departure gate is just a little string, right? Another little string. We'll be expecting them specifying uh, those IDs of gates available at airports, entirely up to the user what they want to enter, like A12, A9, and so forth. Make sure no duplicate gate assignments are permitted at a particular airport, meaning this, that if the flight has already been scheduled to depart from gate such and such in this particular airport at 11:30, reject another flight being scheduled, at the same airport at the same time. So a little bit of extra validation for departure gates. Yes.
Um, how much time before um, departure
How
is
much?
the
Yeah, how much the window, the time window? Yeah, legit question. I would say use anything up to your discretion how to implement this validation. I think what I will be looking for, trying to assess what you're doing, is just to make sure that I don't enter exact times. But if I enter 11:31, it, I will say that's okay. If you schedule one flight departure at 11:30 and another one, the same gate, the same airport at 11:31, it's okay with me. So really, any time frame is okay. Any time window. Yeah.
might be okay with you, but I doubt the pilot would be
Yeah,
okay with it.
right. But well, at least we making ourselves aware that this there is a little bit of validation for the gates. And since the destination and arrival terminals apparently arranged somewhat differently at airports, it seems to be an okay. So the arrival gate doesn't have to worry about the duplicate gates over here. So there's basically, that's internal function of an airport. It's only the departure gate that needs to have this validation. So the arrival or destination will have the same parameters. Arrive which day of the week, the time, the code of the airport, and the arrival gate. So this is pretty much the flight departure arrival information, right? So you probably already forgot what we were talking about earlier on, and that's an issue that I'd like to address. But let's just get through some of the information that we already have so that we have a big picture. Typically, it's really the approach to to to, to get started is to read this a few times. You can't just read it once. You really need to read it a few times to get the big picture, then focus on particular details, then, continue on going. We need, obviously, a menu to support for the user. So the user is essentially, the whole thing is driven by menu. So on the menu, this is what this assignment wants us to do. Have a clock, right? So basically, the system needs to have to know what time is right now, the current time. And we have a this kind of dumb idea to say set clock and just specify what is the current time. And instead of asking the system to give us the current time, which again, obviously, we're going to be doing very soon when working with dates and times. But right now, very simplistic idea, just set the clock. Say, okay, it's 11 a.m. And like assume that the time is frozen and we're looking at the system. Right now it's 11 a.m. and we have a flight departing at 12:30 p.m. same day, and that's just the vision of this application right now. Because I'd like to, mixing in the work with dates and times would be basically inappropriate. Right now, I want us to focus on the fact that we're programming this application using multiple classes. Certain classes are responsible in our application for certain things. Even the menu, I would prefer to have a menu which is represented by a class. If I was working on this homework, I would prefer to have a class named menu and use this menu anytime I communicate with the user. Okay, so set clock. Sure thing. Just an integer number to be remembered, and will be assumed that this is the time that we have right now. Yes,
The
question.
question applies to the first one and the second one. Do you want to have that optional? In other words, do you want them to allow this program to be re-entered?
Yes, you can reset clock anytime you want as a user.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that I understand that we're doing everything in memory, so we're not
Hmm.
really storing it.
Yeah, we're not using any persistent storage.
So it doesn't make any sense that we shouldn't, we should, but why would one want on the next one, delete all existing airline
Yes, if there is nothing stored, well, presumably you can go an extra mile and make it add the persistent storage to it. Then it would make a sense. But the reason why we have delete while we're really not storing anything is that oftentimes the records aren't stored in the persistent storage immediately. You should be able to let user work on the flight schedule and then store it as the whole entity, you know, the whole set of records. So oftentimes an application could do things in memory, let them enter things, let them modify things, add more, delete more, and finally say, now let's save the schedule. So there is a possibility that even without persistent storage, it just makes sense to allow a user who works with the system without actually hitting the save button after making each single modification. Right? Go ahead.
That starts and gives us a class to accomplish that purpose,
Hmm.
but it will be useless until it's persistent storage.
Absolutely. This is
But
almost like a front end design without back end support,
right.
without any sort of database or file storage. Yes.
So as long as we put that in,
Hmm.
that accomplishes the purpose of the program, although
Absolutely.
actually
Yes.
make it
Yeah.
have all the whistles and bells.
Right. Right. Right.
One has to have probably retrieval of some
Mhm.
space storage and then.
Correct. Correct. Yes, but I mean, you being concerned about the back end side of things on the storage issues, I think is very, very appropriate because we as programmers perhaps very naturally think about that part even before you think about the user interface.
That was the
Yeah.
point I was going to make was back in the day
Hmm.
where they had classes, methods, and and other stuff. We would think, what